Hello everybody, this is Danny and Wanda from Deep South Homestead. We've been asked to do a collaboration with Tommy and Patti Alderman from Alderman Farms on the subject of marriage. And Wanda and I are going to be talking about our marriage and how we came to be, a little bit about who we were before our marriage and what led us up to this particular point of marriage and what it's been like since we've been married. And I think Tommy and Patti's they've been married a lot longer than we have, so they're going to be actually talking about marriage long term. Wanda and I have only been married since 2013, July of 2013. We'll get into that story in just a minute, but
we're calling it Homestead Heart because it is our heart.
It's our heart. We're going to pour our hearts out. We're going to be a little bit transparent with y'all.
And today's Valentine's. So what better time to start with our love story than on Valentine's
Day itself. As a lot of y'all may not know about Wanda and I in our past, back in 2011, my wife actually passed away with breast cancer. And after that point is when my life really began to change, because up until then, I had led a pretty normal life as far as, I guess, what the normal life would be for any American citizen. I owned a business. I did all the things that a husband did, and I had the wife. But when she passed away, my life made an abrupt change. I began to understand what the Bible actually meant when it said it's not good for a man to be alone. Because you got to realize, I'd been married most all of my life. And to lose a spouse is probably, and I know there's going to be a lot of y'all out there that has lost your spouses, and to lose your spouse is a devastating thing to have happen to someone. And after having lost a spouse, my perspective of life really did change. The shortness of life, how precious life is. All these things took a change for me, because up to that point, to be honest with you, I think I probably took life for granted.
And when I met Danny, he was very emotional, very angry. He was going through all the grieving symptoms, if you want to say, of grief. Questioning God, questioning life, questioning everything.
Yeah, and that was kind of strange for me, because you see, my wife that passed away had lost 3 of her kids in a car accident all at one time. And she used to go around to different churches giving testimonies about how God had brought her through all this. And I was a camera guy, actually, on the background. I was running the computers and the PowerPoint programs and stuff like this while she was up on stages giving these presentations. And she'd talk about the 7 stages of grief and all the stuff that people would go through. And it wasn't until after she passed away that I realized that this was all for me. God was setting me up, helping me to understand what it was going to be like to actually lose someone.
And even with that, he still did not grasp it.
Right.
It took 2 years before we met.
Yeah, it took 2 years before we met.
And when we met, he still was asking all these questions. And he and I talked, probably the first year of our marriage, we talked more than he's probably ever talked in his life.
Right.
And I let him talk it out.
Yeah.
That was something he needed, because for 2 years he didn't have anybody.
Right.
And so when I came along, there was a talking process.
There was a void in my life that needed filling.
Yes.
And wanted to fill that void. It's kind of funny that I was 50-something years old and did not know that if I would ever marry again. I knew I wanted to marry. I just didn't know if I could marry again.
Yeah.
And it was kind of strange that the way God orchestrated this whole event with Wanda and I, because I spent quite some time alone. I mean, I even left my home here. I didn't live here for 2 years. I went out and lived with my parents. My mom and dad had gotten old and they needed help. My dad was falling. My mom had had a stroke. And they had asked me would I come and kind of help out there a little bit, and I first said no. I said I really need to stay here and work through this thing, but then I ended up having a heart condition while I was here, and
God works in strange ways.
God works in mysterious ways.
He sent him to his dad's and his mom's to help them, and he was a blessing to them.
While I was there, I got even though you're around people, even though you're around your loved ones, let me even say that, around family, I was so lonely because in the household I would see my mother and father together. I would see my brother and his wife together, and I would go to church and I would see all these people with their spouses, and it was literally cutting me apart on the inside, and I couldn't tell anybody how I felt because I didn't know how I felt at the time. I just knew that I was hurting. And it comes to a point I told God, I said, God, honestly, I thought I hated God. But I knew in the back of my mind that I really didn't hate God. It's just that those were some emotions that were coming out. And you know what? Later on I understand that God understands those emotions because God created emotions and He expects us to get those things out of our life. And when I did, I know this may sound crazy now, my brother met his wife on Christian Mingle. They had a great marriage. They're a great couple and everything. And he made the comment to me. He said, Danny, maybe you need to just go on Christian Mingle. There might be somebody there that, that might be interested in you. And I was like, no, man. I said, there's no way I'm going to do this. And I didn't. I resisted it for probably a year. And then one day I was sitting there and I got to thinking to myself, I said, you know what do I have to lose? I'm lonely. I'm sitting here without anybody.
I came from a very Christian background. Mm-hmm. My parents were gentle people. They didn't fuss and argue, smoke, drink. They were very, I guess Danny used the word prim lots of times.
Yeah,
but
they were very proper and prim people. Yeah.
That's who I was. That's the type of person I was. And I was used to life being simple. We were raised on an acre, but my dad had vegetables. We always had vegetables. That's all we knew growing up. And we bought a lot from the store, but we had our vegetables to go with it. Then when I married for the first time, we had a garden. We had vegetables. I was married nearly 30 years. And when I finally walked away from that marriage, I was by myself for nearly 5 years before I met Danny. And the first 4, I wouldn't even think about dating. I couldn't go that way. I just didn't think there was anybody for me. I didn't trust men. I don't know if I even liked men, to be honest with you. And I thought it was all for me. I could do what I needed to do on my own. And then after 4 years by myself, I decided maybe I'll try dating a little. And about a year later, things just wasn't working out. And a friend of mine suggested that I try Christian Mingle. And she was kind of half joking. And I said, I'll think about it. Well, I decided to go on it. And for the first couple of weeks, it was strange. Because you're almost like you're picking and choosing. You're looking at a Sears Roebuck catalog, picking some guy out of a lineup.
Yeah. And
Danny was one of the first ones that I messaged on there, and I think he messaged me back pretty quick, but I didn't like his answers.
That was true, yeah.
His words were, let's see, how would you put it? I'm living with my
parents taking care of them.
Yes. For now, I'm living with my parents, helping take care of them. Okay, I'm seeing a 50-year-old man still living with his parents, and I really wasn't interested. Even though the picture of him was awesome. But he had 2 different pictures, too, and that was a little strange, because one of them was him as a healthy, robust man with dark hair, dark skin, weighing probably close to 200 pounds. And the other picture was of a shriveled up guy with longer hair, and it was brown with white mixed in. Probably didn't weigh 175 pounds, 180 maybe, from the looks of him. And I was really shocked. I didn't know what to think of the difference. And So I left it alone for a couple of weeks, and I decided it wasn't worth it. I mean, I was driving myself crazy. I was living in a major city. I was going to school. I'd quit my job. At 50, I had started college. I enjoyed being at the college. I enjoyed what I was studying. I was enjoying my life, I thought. But there was a part of me that was heartbroken. I wanted respect. I wanted someone who would respect me. I wanted somebody to love me. But on Christian Mingle, I thought, if I just meet somebody to just kind of go eat with every now and then, that's all I wanted, because I didn't want a relationship. I knew after the last one, I'm like, I don't need a relationship. I just need somebody to talk to. And it's funny, God works things around in His way and His time, because I decided to get off. I messaged Danny and 2 or 3 others and told them, this isn't for me. If you want to call me, but I'm out of here. This is kind of weird. And so a week later, I shut Christian Mingle down. But before I shut it down, probably 3 or 4 days before, I got a phone call. I was sitting on a beach watching the water in March. I mean, I was very...
Yeah.
I mean, and that may sound funny, but it was warm.
It was warm, though. It's always warm here, though.
And I was sitting by myself, nobody around, and I was contemplating. I was talking to God, saying, it's in your hands. You've got to do whatever you're going to do. If I'm to be by myself, I'm going to be by myself. Right. If you're sending me somebody, you can send them. But I'm at my bottom level. I've reached rock bottom with this dating thing.
Yeah.
And I headed to the car. I'd been there about 3 hours. Headed to the car, and the phone rings. And Danny goes, Hey, girl. And I sat in the car and talked to him for an hour or better before I even left. I went on back to my apartment. We talked that night probably 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah. And
I was amazed at his knowledge. And from that point on, for 2 weeks, we talked. We did not meet for 2 weeks. That was one of his things. It wasn't mine, because I would have went the first day.
And my deal was, I didn't want anybody to know what I owned, because I wanted somebody to love me for me. I didn't want somebody to come and be a part of my life for what I had.
So for 2 weeks, we talked almost 8 hours a night. And you got to understand, I was going to college. I don't know how I studied and made straight A's.
I don't know either. I don't know how she made it.
But I was going to school every day, talking to him 8 hours a night. And plus, I worked a couple of 3 hours every afternoon before I got off to get home. And I don't even remember it as being tough.
Well, I mean, you got to realize at that point, too, see, I'd done come back home. I had done left my parents' house, and I had done come back to my house here. And so I was just here by myself. For me to sit and talk at 6 or 8 hours.
And I was in an apartment by myself.
Yeah, we were both by ourselves. And the funny thing about this story is there was a particular Sunday that I was, like Wanda said, I was at my wit's end with this dating thing. Because here I am, I'm 50 years old. I've not dated in, I don't even know how many years, since I was a teenager, I suppose. But I didn't know how to date.
And I didn't either.
That
was the deal. How do you date at 50?
Yeah, how do you date? What do you do? I mean,
Because what are the rules?
Yeah, what are the rules, And
it was kind of strange for us, and I would have came the first day, like he said, I would have. But when we started talking, he goes, I don't want to meet for a while. I'd rather us just talk.
I'd rather us get to know one another before we meet. Because you see, talking over a telephone before you meet, you will actually ask someone a questions that you won't ask face to face. Mm-hmm. And I knew that. So I told her, I said, let's just talk for a while and see how it goes. Because there's this aspect of meeting face to face. Once you do,
sometimes emotions get in the way.
Get in the way.
And with us talking on the phone before we met, I mean, I kind of knew what he looked like. He kind of knew what I looked like. And I think we started sending pictures maybe at that point.
Yeah, we did. I'd send her a few pictures of things about the house. I never showed her the whole home.
He just told me he had a house.
I told her I owned a home.
And he didn't tell me about the land or anything, but he talked about gardening, that he was a gardener, he liked gardening, things like that. But we talked more about emotions.
Yeah,
about how our feelings
of what we've experienced in life, how we felt about different things, the past, because it was good for us to get the past out of the way before we actually met. Yes. That way there's no like hidden secrets anywhere.
And we actually talked about every aspect of our past.
Yeah.
This holding a portion of your past in and not releasing it only comes back to bite you in your future relationship.
It will, yeah.
If you marry somebody and you don't tell them about a piece of the puzzle in your life, somewhere along the way it's going to emerge.
Yeah.
And you're going to have issues. So we were so honest with each other, it was really crazy. We
figured we didn't have nothing to lose, because really we had never met one another face to face. We were only...
And we weren't emotionally
attached at that time. Even though we felt like we were, I think we actually loved each other when we first started talking.
I think so, but I knew by the time I came out here, I was already in love with him. And that's kind of strange for some people to even comprehend. But I think we both thought we were falling for each other, put it that way. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
That's a better way, yeah.
And when I came out the first time, he had not told me that he wasn't coming to see me. He had just kept putting it off.
Yeah, I kept putting it off.
After 2 weeks, I just took the initiative. I said, I'm going to meet him. He's going to meet me somewhere. I'm just going to make that.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way I was. And so I called him that Thursday and said, I'm coming out. When did I come out? Saturday evening. Because I had to work that morning.
You had to work that morning.
So I told him, I said, after I get off work, I'm headed that way. I'll call you and you walk me in, because I'm totally directionally illiterate. I would never have found it, even with a GPS, just saying. And
I live in the woods.
But GPS brings you right here, but I'd have got lost.
Yeah.
I did get lost a couple of times. But I called him, told him I was coming. And when I drove up, I had no idea what this place looked like. When I got out, I think that's the moment we both knew we were in love with each other.
I think so. Yeah, when I walked to the car to meet her, yeah.
It was almost like that was it. That's what we were waiting for our whole life.
Yeah.
And we didn't marry till June, but we spent almost every waking moment together after I got out of school.
Yeah.
And then that fall I went back to school for a while. But the first, year and a half of our life?
Yeah.
Maybe closer to 2 years. We absolutely stayed on this place. We sat outside either on the porch, the front porch, the back porch, or we were inside in the living room talking.
We talked.
I think we talked 10 hours a day.
At least 10 hours a day for a year almost.
Or more.
Or more, yeah.
We just needed to get all of it out of our system. We were enthralled with each other. We had to understand every aspect of each other. And by Danny having this place, having it paid for, even though he didn't have a job, even though we didn't have an income, neither one of us had an income.
Right, that was the scary part.
That was our scary part, but we walked out on faith. And I'm not promoting anybody do this. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
Believe
this is some unusual circumstances here.
But I had a little bit of savings that paid my car note for the first year. And then I decided to sell it. Danny worked off and on with carpentry and stuff, and that helped us get through. We did not have when we said we didn't have
a steady paycheck coming in every week. Somebody would call me and say, can you build me some kitchen cabinets, or can you do this, or can you lay a tile floor for me, or something like that. And I would go do those small projects. And
we were very frugal with our money. We made sure bills were paid first. We didn't go do anything. As long as you have what you need, the things that you don't have is not important anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing about it was, even though we was in our 50s, we kind of felt like teenagers all over again.
Oh,
there was a renewed sense of strength about us, and we didn't have the little giddy moments like teenagers have. We were
I think we did.
There were some moments like that, but I mean, what I'm saying, we were more mature. we both knew what we wanted out of life.
We were mature teenagers.
We were mature teenagers. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
You know, we had to be touching.
Yeah.
We had to be in the room with each other. And
that hasn't changed because, I mean, literally, I don't want to be away from this woman's side. I mean, but she has to run me to the shop a lot of times because I'm going to tell you something. I love this woman. I don't care what anything. I love this woman to death because, to me, God was good to me. God gave me someone who is like-minded, someone who enjoys the same things in life that I enjoy, someone who doesn't mind sharing time with me, someone who's not violent, who's not loud, not screaming all the time, not cursing up a storm, and is a good moral lady. I mean, God gave me the desire of my heart. I mean, even though I had to wait this long to get it, not to say that my other marriage wasn't great, but it was just different. Let me put it that way. This is like the icing on the cake to me. God gave me things through Wanda that He didn't give me through my other marriage. And I guess that's what I love about this so much, is that she fills all those voids that I had from before.
And the same with Danny. I wanted an intelligent man. I wanted somebody that knew how to conduct himself. I wanted somebody that was forward with everything, that he didn't hold things back. I wanted an honest, upright gentleman. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I got. He portrays himself well. He speaks well. He treats me with respect. If I want to do something, I can do it. He treats me with that type respect that a woman can do anything that she wants to do. It's not that I have to stay here all day long. I want to. I don't care to go get a job. I don't care to do all these things because we have the peace here that I've been looking for. I would sit in my apartment and long to be outside because I couldn't go out the door because I'd been in a street. Because I was literally, my apartment was on a major street.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sit outside. I couldn't go out. That's why I was at the beach that day. The only place I could go was about 10 miles from my apartment to a beach to enjoy a little bit of sunshine.
Right.
And when I came out here, it was awesome. Even though I'd lived in the country before, I was raising my children. I was homeschooling. I had a lot going on at that point. I don't even know how, I mean, a lot of you are at this point. You're raising your children,
yeah.
You're homesteading, we had all this going on when I was in my 20s and 30s, and even up to 40s, homeschooling, canning, raising a garden, all that stuff was a part of my life. I was not even thinking at that point about settling, just chilling. There were no chill moments when you do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So at 50, God gave me the desires of my heart. He gave me a quiet, peaceful place. Well, you can hear the roosters in the background.
Other than the roosters, it's pretty quiet.
We didn't have chickens at that point.
Yeah, we didn't have any chickens then.
There were no chickens, so it was quiet. We could sit here, and there was basically no traffic. As you can see, there's no traffic. It was just a peaceful, loving place. A place that I could feel safe, and that's what I needed. I needed the safety of a person that would take care of me.
Yeah.
And when I came here, he told me he would take care of me. That was, and not be meaning that he would be a hammer on my head.
Right.
He meant he would protect me.
I would protect her.
And that's something I needed very much.
Yeah, and that's this being a thing about marriage. I mean, that is part of the husband's job, is to provide a safe haven for his wife, is to provide her with whatever she needs. Any of y'all who watched our All God's Children channel, when I spoke about the virtuous woman, you will see in that channel the things and the qualities that I mentioned, I found in Wanda. Because let me tell you, I had told God in this particular situation that I was not going to choose my next mate. I told God He had to choose my next mate. And that was part of the reason why I did not take off to go meet Wanda. Because I had actually made like a vow with God, and I told him, I said, Lord, I'm not choosing my next mate. You're going to choose my mate for me. And to make sure that I don't screw it up, you're going to have to bring her to me. And I just kept holding out. I was like, if she don't come, I'll know it's not her.
And he didn't tell me this.
I didn't tell her that, no.
That was one thing he didn't tell me until I came out here.
Right.
The day I came out, he told me right off the bat, he said, I made this vow. And he said, when you drove up, I knew God's hand was in it. He said, he was holding back emotions during the phone conversations because he was afraid of being hurt again.
Yeah.
And I was afraid of being hurt.
We were both in that boat, yeah. Even though we knew everything about each other that we thought we could possibly tell each other, there was still that element of fear in the back of our mind that we were going to get hurt.
We just live every day. We love every day.
We love every day. That's what it is. That's what makes our relationship so great, is the simple fact that I'm in love with this woman not on Valentine's,
yeah,
not on Christmas, not on her birthday, not on her anniversary, but every day.
Every day.
I'm in love with this woman every day of my life. I don't want to be away from her. I'm not one of these kind of guys who can't wait to get away from my wife. I can't wait to wake up in the morning and be with this woman.
And we say that, and some people say, well, don't you get tired of each other? Not really.
Not really.
We've been married this July be 4 years.
4 years. In 4 years I hadn't got tired of her.
And we joke sometimes. I'll say, are you going to run me off now? And he goes, no.
Nope. Yeah, she's
not
always
yet.
picking at me about that. Are you going to run me off yet? I'm like, nope.
But, I mean, it's amazing to me that someone can love me the way he loves me. That they would take me. Because I felt so inferior, I guess is the word.
Well, we felt unlovable.
Yeah, we both felt unlovable.
Yeah.
And so the fact that God put somebody in my life to give me his whole heart. He gave me everything, his whole heart. That's why this is the Homestead Heart.
Yeah,
series.
That's why we call it the Homestead Heart series, is because I literally give her my whole heart.
And I gave him my whole heart.